Have you ever stared at a painting long enough to spot those tiny, easily missed details? Sometimes the most obvious things are the ones we never really notice. Take the FedEx logo, for example. There's a white arrow hidden right between the E and X, and we usually miss it, even though it's right there. We're surrounded by these little details all the time. So let's take a stroll through some famous artworks and see what hidden gems we can spot together. Let's take a closer look at the famous painting, Girl with a Pearl Earring by Vermeer. This artwork is a great example of Vermeer's skill. The girl's face is painted softly, focusing on smooth transitions and subtle details rather than sharp lines. Her clothes are a bit simpler, but Vermeer adds life with tiny dots of paint that make it look like light is bouncing off her. What really draws the eye, though, is the pearl earring. It's just a couple of brush strokes, one bright spot on the top and a softer reflection below, but it looks incredibly real. The interesting part is that the pearl might not be real at all. It could be just a piece of glass painted to look like a pearl, or maybe it's all from Vermeer's imagination. Back in the 17th century, Dutch girls also didn't wear turbans like the one in the painting, so Vermeer was probably going for an exotic look. But why do we keep coming back to this painting? It's breathtakingly beautiful, for starters. The way the blue and yellow of her headscarf stand out against the dark background, the shine of the pearl, and the play of light on her skin make the painting mesmerizing. Plus, her expression is kind of mysterious. Is she happy, sad, inviting you closer, or looking past you? It feels like she's actually seeing the painter, not just posing, which adds a whole layer of intrigue. What was Vermeer doing to make her look at him like that? The Arnolfini Portrait by Jan van Eyck, painted back in 1434, is a real puzzle, as often happens in art history. It shows a man and woman standing in a room, dressed to the nines, their hands barely touching. They're surrounded by signs of wealth, from the rich clothes to the well-furnished room. Every detail hints at their high social status. The painting is pretty small, but it's packed with clues and questions that have kept people on their toes for centuries. Now, are they getting married in this scene? It used to seem that way, but now we think they're already husband and wife, though exactly who they are is still a bit of a mystery. The man is probably Giovanni di Niccolao di Arnolfini, and the woman might be his second wife. However, there's a twist. A document popped up showing they married years after Van Eyck had already passed away. There's a theory that the woman had actually passed away before this portrait was even painted, hinted at by the little dog at her feet. In olden times, artists often painted dogs at the feet of women in their portraits, especially in scenes meant to represent the afterlife. They believed that these dogs would guide and protect their owners on their journey to the next world. So the little dog sitting at the woman's feet in this painting might be hinting at something deeper. Or it could just be showing that she was loved, symbolizing loyalty and devotion. Back then, the emerging merchant middle-class people like these would commission portraits to show off their status, and this portrait is a prime example. They're not dressed overly flashy, but everything from the oranges on the table, which were super expensive, to the woman's green dress made with costly pigments screams subtle luxury. Also, despite what it might look like, she isn't pregnant. The way she's holding her gown was just the fashion, meant to show modesty and decorum. The details here are amazing, down to the threads in the rosary beads and the one lit candle in the chandelier, symbolizing their faith in one God. Even the mirror in the background is a religious work of art, decorated with tiny scenes from the life of Christ. And if you look closely in the mirror, you can see two men entering the room. Van Eyck even left his mark literally with a signature that says, Jan van Eyck was here, making us wonder if he's stepping into the scene himself. In Karl Bloch's painting In a Roman Osteria from 1866, it feels like everyone at the table is sizing you up, even the cat. The scene is charged with a sense of judgment, which might explain why the man looks a bit uncomfortable, as if he's feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on him. The woman to the left is doing more than just eating. She's indulging in ortolan, a French delicacy that's shrouded in moral and sensory complexity. She even has a napkin draped over her head, a traditional gesture meant to hide her face from God while she eats this controversial dish. This act isn't just about taste, but it's packed with cultural and ethical symbolism, touching on themes of guilt and excess, and adds a rich layer of meaning to the painting. Also, in the background, two of the figures lurking aren't just random extras. One's the artist himself, and the other is the guy who commissioned the painting. It's a clever twist that makes the scene even more interesting, sort of like they're watching the story unfold with us. But remember, this isn't just any picture, it's a painting rich with symbols and a sense of movement. The people you see up front, indulging heartily in their meal, starkly contrasts with those two men in the back, observing. This setup isn't just about showing different activities. It's a deeper look at the pace of life itself, how some moments are full of action and others are more about waiting and watching. It's a narrative loaded with meaning where every detail, the judgmental glances, the secretive meal, the public and private moments, tells a part of a larger story about human nature. The Garden of Earthly Delights by Hieronymus Bosch is a fascinating three-part painting. On the left, you see the Garden of Eden, and on the right, a scary vision of hell. The middle part is a mix of both, featuring some quirky animals that almost look like Pokemon. But there's an even stranger detail. There's a piece of music written on the butt of a tortured soul. 500 years later, this music was recently transcribed and played for the first time. It gave us a chance to hear what Bosch might have imagined so long ago. This close-up comes from Rembrandt's painting, Young Scholar and His Tutor. In this piece, Rembrandt doesn't just show off in the realistic way he paints the hands, but he uses them to tell a deeper story. You can see the texture of the skin, the veins, and even fine lines, making them look alive and emphasizing the human connection in the scene. The way he plays with light draws your eyes right to the tutor's hand, stressing its meaning in the lesson and in the painting as a whole. The tutor's hand is stretched out, pointing to a line in a book. This isn't just about pointing out words, but it's a powerful gesture that shows he's passing on wisdom and connecting deeply with the knowledge he's sharing. It symbolizes discovering new ideas and guiding the young scholar toward bigger truths and insights. The young scholar's hands are less noticeable, likely resting in his lap or gently on the book, showing he's soaking in the wisdom. This contrast highlights their roles clearly, the tutor as the giver of knowledge and the scholar as the receiver. A tiny self-portrait of Caravaggio has been uncovered with the help of some cool technology. Researchers use a special technique called multispectral reflectography to spot a little picture of the artist hidden in the wine jug of his painting, Bacchus. In this small image, Caravaggio is shown with dark hair holding a paintbrush. This might just be the only self-portrait of him that we know about. Alexandre Cabanel's painting, The Fallen Angel from 1847, is packed with deep symbolism and emotion. It shows Lucifer just after he's been cast out of heaven. You can spot a single tear falling from his eye, capturing both his deep anger and his stubborn defiance. His arms are positioned in a way that tries to show confidence by clasping his hands together, but at the same time he seems to be hiding his face, perhaps to cover his tears and his feelings of betrayal and anger. It's as if he's trying to convince himself he didn't need heaven, even though he's clearly heartbroken. Lucifer's expression, especially the contrast between the soft, almost glowing quality of his eyes and the rough, dark textures of the rocks and his imposing wings, really pulls you in. This difference draws attention to the tragedy of his fall, showing the purity he once had and the isolation he now faces. The eyes don't just show his sorrow, but they remind us of what he's lost. Even though this is a mythical story, the very human sorrow in his eyes makes us feel a connection and deepens our empathy for him. The painting of Ivan the Terrible grappling with guilt and sorrow after accidentally killing his son in a fit of rage is the most intense and moving artwork you will ever face. It's so powerful that your heart will race just from looking at it. You might love it so much that you hate it. It's haunting and hard to look at, but incredibly compelling. The scene captures a moment of sheer horror in Ivan's eyes as he realizes the irreversible act he's committed. His son, his heir, and his only hope for the future is dying because of and before him. And there's nothing he can do to change that. It's the ultimate tragedy, intensified by the fact that his other children were either ill or unfit to rule. The painting shows the personal agony of a father and also hints at the doom awaiting his country, leading to what was known as the Time of Troubles, marked by civil wars and foreign interference. The emotions in this art piece are raw and profound. You can see his son, aware of his fate, looking up at his father not with hatred but with bone-chilling sadness and a single tear. It's unclear whether he's clinging to his father or pushing him away in his final moments. Also, did you catch the detail of the throne knocked over in the background? That's a powerful symbol, echoing the chaos and collapse that followed. Mona Lisa's smile is one of the most mysterious in all of art history. This painting marks a turning point in the Renaissance. It displays Leonardo's use of aerial perspective and layering the scene into three parts. The central figure of Mona Lisa, the soft greenery around her, and the hazy background made possible through a technique called sfumato, which blurs the edges almost like a smoky veil. Did you ever notice the line through the middle of her forehead? It turns out she's wearing a thin veil, a small detail that could be easily missed in the grand scope of her enigmatic expression. And while we're often caught up in her smile, there's another aspect that's often overlooked: the chair she's sitting on. It might surprise you, but that chair is the closest object to us viewers, and she's gripping it with all her fingers as if pointing out its importance silently. This portrait of Lisa del Giocondo, a 24-year-old mother of 5 and wife of a wealthy Florentine silk merchant, doesn't just capture our gaze with her smile. There's something divine in how Leonardo painted her mouth and eyes, so lifelike that some have said it seems as if you could see her pulse in the delicate skin of her throat. Leonardo's mastery makes the painting feel almost alive, a quality that has mesmerized viewers for centuries. He had also decided to keep things simple, especially when it came to jewelry. Unlike other portraits from that time, which often showed off lots of bling to highlight the subject's wealth and status, the Mona Lisa features very little, if any, noticeable jewelry. This choice really makes you focus more on her face and the emotions it expresses rather than any flashy accessories. Even with the small painting's fame, many of us might not realize that this was a project Leonardo never thought as complete. He continued to work on it right up until his death in 1519. His obsession might suggest that the true artwork was in its perpetual creation. In his later years, the famous French impressionist Claude Monet, who passed away in 1926, started painting a lot with the color blue. This shift might have been an artistic choice or a way to capture a certain mood, but there's a twist. Monet might have leaned into blue mainly because his vision was fading. After a surgery for cataracts, he reportedly told his doctor, "I see blue," lamenting that he could no longer see reds or yellows, which really bothered him. He even talked about wanting to destroy these blue paintings because they frustrated him so much. Despite his frustrations, Monet adapted by using glasses with special lenses that helped him manage the colors better, allowing him to finish an important series of paintings for the French government. At the time, these blurry, blue-dominated works weren't very popular, but today they're appreciated as a link to modern abstract art. Art historians sometimes find these blue paintings puzzling. They often think that every detail in an artwork is a deliberate decision by the artist. They argue that Monet, who was known for his thoughtful use of color to convey mood and meaning, would have corrected his color vision if it had been purely a practical issue. This suggests that maybe, just maybe, Monet chose to embrace the blue for reasons deeper than just his vision problems. Edgar Degas once said, "Art is not what you see, but what you make others see." So today's video taught us that the great masterpieces often lie in the smallest details. Have you ever spotted a small detail in a painting that completely changed how you saw it? Maybe a tiny feature that caught your eye and made you think differently about the whole artwork? Drop your stories in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring. The more you look, the more you see.